Hello, I'm Alex Exidius, and I'm here to serve as your time travel guide today. That's right, we're going to go back over 40 years to Sebring, Florida in 1958. The reason we want to take you back there is we want you to witness this race in person. We want you to feel the technology of the day and see these great drivers. We don't want it to be a history lesson. We want you to be there to participate. As an example, what you're not going to see today is any computer graphics. The computers in 1958 weighed like 32 tons, and nobody had one of them. You're also not going to see any digitally enhanced cars. The Ferraris and everything you see today are going to be the real cars. Okay. Oh, incidentally, I'm going to serve as your pilot on the time machine so that any of those who wish to leave now may do so. And those who stay, thank you for your confidence. I appreciate it. Okay, let's talk about the time machine. The SoCal Time Machine Company has invented this small little magic chip that when it's put in an automobile, it lets it go back in time and space. And that's what we're going to do today. I have a feeling that most of you mechanical types are not paying attention right now. You want to see the machine, okay? Let's take a look at our time machine. Isn't it a beauty? This is a 1957-58 prototype Ferrari Testarossa. There were two of these cars built, and one of them you'll see in the race today, driven by Phil Hill and Peter Collins. This marvelous car has been restored by Charles Betts and Fred Peters, and they have agreed with great reluctance to let us use it as our time machine. Before we go, however, I'm going to have to brief you on some stuff that happened back in those days, because we can't just plop you back in 1958. The cultural shock would be way too much for you. So let's begin with the president. Dwight D. Eisenhower was your president. We liked Ike. However, his vice president was probably the one that became more famous. His name was Richard M. Nixon. We launched our first satellite and started to catch up with Russia in the space race. We fired up our first nuclear power plant. Our nuclear submarine, the Nautilus, passed under the North Pole ice cap for the first time in history. In sports, Arnold Palmer won the Masters Championship for the first time. Jimmy Bryan won the Indianapolis 500. At the movies, you probably went to see Gigi or Cat on a Hot Tin Roof with beautiful Elizabeth Taylor. Songs. On the way home, on the radio, you probably are driven nuts by the Chipmunk song. TV. Us tough guys watched Wagon Train. We also watched The Rifleman and Have Gun Will Travel. The rest of you probably watched The Donna Reed Show. In books, Dr. Zhivago and Breakfast at Tiffany were big hits. Your kids are probably out in the backyard right now swiveling their hips, trying to keep up the hula hoops. And the Barbie doll was introduced for the first time. Wonder whatever happened to her. Okay, I think it's time to go now. We'll have to get the time machine out on the launch pad, and we'll be on our way back to Sebring. Okay, I think we're ready to go back to Sebring, Florida. Come on, let's get going now.
Alex, I think you have to start the car.
I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous. The last time we did this, we ended up in Kansas with Dorothy. Forgive me, here we go.
I think you gotta put it in gear.
About halfway down the long leg of Florida, there are several small towns quite different from the glamorous resort cities along the coast. They have their share of beautiful palms and trees draped in Spanish moss, but you won't find any Bermuda shorts or mambo bands. These quiet little towns are havens for the retired northerner who comes south seeking a place in the sun far from the hubbub of the big cities. Most of them have a tourist club, and this is the center of companionship and competition. For regardless of age, the spirit of competition can be found in almost everyone. The favorite game is shuffleboard, and every point is recorded carefully. Although the game is played for fun, winning is also important. The game is played with four wheel-like discs, and the tournament we're watching has one restriction. It's limited to contestants of 70 years or older. This particular town was founded in 1912 by a man from Ohio named George E. Sebring. Its elevation is 160 feet, population 8,000, just about average for this section of the state. But once a year, there is a drastic change. Sebring's quiet is suddenly shattered by a hectic hubbub of activity. Men converge on this small town from all parts of the globe, and for one day, change it into the mecca of the sports car world. These men are here for companionship and competition too, and the game they play requires four wheels, but much, much more. It requires great skill and stamina, not only from the men, but from the machines they bring with them. These men from Italy, Germany, France, England, North and South America are here not only to do battle against each other, but against a common foe. That relentless recorder of time, the clock. Once a year, speed and time conquer this small town and rule it with an iron hand. One day a year, Sebring, Florida, ascends the heights of fame. This is the story of that day. The day is March the 22nd, 1958, and it begins very early for everyone. The crews begin final preparations as soon as it is light. These sleeping beauties are the factory Porsches from Stuttgart. This rudely awakened Ferrari is a Testarossa, wearing the racing colors of Cuba. Slowly, the pits begin to buzz with activity that will not subside until long after sundown tonight. The pits are stocked with mechanical plasma that will keep the cars going during the battle. The people who have come from everywhere to watch the game of speed are lined up for miles down the highway. The racing machines that were garaged in town have to be escorted to the course. This is the Lotus team from England arriving. And here is Scuderia Ferrari from Modena, Italy, 3 of the new 250 TRs. One of the first things to be done is fuel the cars. The rules specify that straight gasoline must be used, and a portable service station has been set up to officially fill the dry tanks. Hundreds of 5-gallon cans will be used in the pits after the race begins to refuel the thirsty beasts that will be consuming a gallon every 3 or 4 minutes. For most of the crews, a quick cup of coffee is breakfast. The beautiful new Abarth Fiats are entered in Class H. The bodies were built by Zagato. Just 1 year ago, this name appeared on a brutish 4.5-liter V8, and with Fangio and Barra behind it, won the race. Now there are only 2 Maseratis here, both private American entries, a 300S and this 2-liter owned and driven by Jim Kimberly. Isn't this Oscar beautiful? Making its first appearance in this country, the very streamlined Lister Jaguar brings with it a fantastic record of wins on the continent. Combine a Jag engine and an extra light body and chassis, you have a very exciting sports car. Also appearing in the colonies for the first time, perhaps the most famous non-factory team in the world, the Ecurie Écosse. The dark green D-Jags have won the 24-hour at Le Mans the last 2 years, and were the only challengers to our Indianapolis cars at Monza. This is the Le Mans winner, Ron Flockhart, worrying over last-minute details with his mechanic. He will co-drive with an American, Maston Gregory. This year, there's been a big switch to the Grand Touring class. All the Triumphs and Austin Healey's are running tops this year. The B12 on the new 250 TRs is basically the same as the 3.8 Ferrari ran last year, but it has been reduced to 3 liters to comply with this year's formula. It certainly wasn't carbureted with fuel economy in mind. The new Elva Mark III. This conversation runs something like this. The girl is telling Jean Barra how much she admires him, and Harry Schell is telling her that if she will kiss him, he will kiss Barra far. Oh, those Frenchmen. Some drivers prepare for the race. A very handsome creation is the Ferrari 250 Grand Touring. There are 2 of these coupes entered by the North American Racing Team. They are also powered by the 3-liter V12, but with a trifle less carburation. The DBR1s of the English Aston Martin team have 3-liter, 6-cylinder dual-cam engines under the bonnet. They also have a Mark III entered in the Grand Touring. As starting time draws near, we find Stirling Moss practicing the Le Mans start. You can't improve much on that. The cars are now being placed in position on the starting grid. And now, 65 drivers listen to the countdown until it's 10 a.m. and the 12-hour Grand Prix of Endurance has begun. Most of the cars are closely grouped during the first lap. By the time the leaders reach the back straight, they have begun to pull away from the field. The first man by the pit is Moss, followed by Hawthorne, Salvadori, Hill, and Scott Brown. Next, Jean de Bienne, Von Neumann, Crawford, and Fitch. Then, the Ecurie Ecosse, with Shell sandwiched in between, and Barra pursuing the 3 of them, and in turn being pursued by 52 other drivers. By the third time around, Moss is starting to lap some of the field. And his teammate, Salvadori, has passed Hawthorne, making it 1-2 for Aston Martin. Hill remains 4th. But Scott Brown, who was 5th, lost a valve and was rammed by Jean de Bienne, putting the Lister out and the Ferrari in the pits. Soon, several individual battles developed. Salvadori and Hawthorne continue to have their feud, with Hill keeping them in sight. And the Lotus are running as if they were attached. Salvadori just edges by Hawthorne. And Barra and Fitch are taking turns passing each other. The Ecurie Ecosse cars are right together. Salvadori's Aston, Hawthorne's Ferrari. Barra's 1600 Porsche and Fitch's 250 Testarossa. Salverson's D, followed by Flockhart. Whoops, Flockhart lost his D-type, and that ends that duel, at least for now. Hawthorne has regained second place from Salvadori. And Fitch is closing on Barra. The powerful Ferrari passes the little Porsche on the straights, but Barra catches up in the corners. We've just learned that Crawford's Lister Jag is also out with mechanical trouble. These 2 are still at it, but Hill is gaining on them. Moss is doing a fantastic job and has already lapped more than half of the 65 cars. This time, Salvadori tries the inside, and they enter the pit straight, wheel to wheel. Hawthorne's co-driver, Count Wolfgang von Trips, tries not to worry about the struggle his teammate is having. But suddenly, the duel is over. Salvadori has been called into the pits for refueling, tires, and relief by his co-driver, Carroll Shelby. Roy has a few words with Tony Brooks, who is waiting to relieve Moss. The team manager, Reg Parnell, instructs the crew with the aid of a portable speaker. And then Shelby is ready to go, but the pit steward is having trouble sealing the tank. Salvadori, a very tired Englishman. Next, the leading car pits, and just as Moss slides to a stop, the left rear tire goes flat. With the already low body now even lower, they have to resort to jacking up the side of the car. You've heard the expression, he drove the wheels off the car. Well, you'll never see a better example than this. The other tire is also down to the core. But now, with a little more tread on the rear, Brooks is ready.